So if you've spent any time in the YouTube universe studying dating and relationship videos, that I'm sure you've overheard, not overheard, you have heard repetitively is what I meant, the concept of boundaries. So today we're going to talk about boundaries, but I think it's really important to establish before we get into boundaries. For those of us in midlife, I think it's really important to examine what is a relationship to you. And this morning, I was contemplating the idea of dating versus a relationship. And now we all associate dating with the period of time to get to know a person, right? To get to know a person, to decide if you want to be in a relationship with them. But isn't it fascinating how many people have spent months, if not years together, having regular sex together, and they still claim to be dating? And I want to really explore that for a moment, because to me, dating is the period of time you spend getting to know someone before you decide to explore a relationship with someone. And usually at least this is in my world, before you explore a relationship with someone, not before you explore a relationship, but at about the time you decide to have sex together, that's the time to declare that you want a fully committed relationship with someone. Meaning, I'm a big proponent of those who want a serious relationship. And if you're going to have sex with a person, then sex is part of a committed relationship. Now, it's certainly okay for many people to have what's known as friends with benefits. It's certainly okay for people to have casual relationships. It's certainly okay for people to have situationships. My channel is devoted to those people who genuinely want partnership in their life. They want what I call a juicy, delicious, healthy relationship where it's built on a foundation of trust, commitment, and a desire to expend your future with a person. So how do we get to these places? How do we get to a point of being in a fully committed relationship? Well, I think boundaries is an important conversation to have, especially in the early stages of dating. Now, or in the early stages of dating a relationship. And let me come back to this. I believe dating is the period of time that you spend getting to know each other. And at the time you decide to have regular sex with a person, that's the time you enter into a relationship. And I'm also going to use the terminology exploring a relationship together, because there are multiple layers of relationship. We'll talk about that in a moment. But coming back to boundaries, I like the way Brene Brown identifies boundaries. And what she says is boundaries are what's okay and what's not okay for me. That's what a boundary is. But to really understand boundaries, you have to understand standards. Okay, so this is a boundary, but inside the boundary is a standard. What is it? What is it that you're seeking within a fully committed relationship? Now, I can tell you as a dating relationship coach who specializes in midlife, and midlife is after baby making years and before retirement, I can tell you most women have no clue what they want. Now, they all come to me, Jonathan, I know what I want. I know what I want. I know what I want in a relationship. But what's interesting is after they go through my proprietary coaching program, can you guess what they say every single time? They say, why didn't they teach me this in school? Why didn't my parents teach me this? I didn't know what I want. So if you need some support in that, check out the link right here to a free discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. And there's a link below in the description as well. Why I emphasize this is not just about knowing what you want, but also how to vet the guy in a relationship. Because it's these days, look at the days of just meeting someone at a grocery store because you lived in a small town, or, well, let me backtrack. You lived in a small town, everybody knew each other, you married your high school sweetheart. That doesn't exist, or barely exists these days. The idea of bumping into someone at the grocery store doesn't exist these days. These days, we spend more time on our devices connecting with people than we do out organically in the real world. So the challenge today is choosing a suitable partner who has shared values with you, a lifestyle that can blend with you, and more importantly, emotional maturity being a relationship. Look at chemistry, as many of you feel like chemistry is the elusive piece. Let me tell you something. That's the easy piece. Do you know why? Because it's either there right in the beginning or not. What's harder to determine is, does this person really share my values? Does this person's lifestyle going to work with mine? And is this person emotionally grown up to be in a relationship? This is why I teach this in my coaching, to help you get fully prepared so you know who to choose to be in relationship with, so you're not winging it. And let's face it, ladies, most guys are winging it out there. This is why I encourage you, you are in charge of your relationship destiny. Don't give that to the guy. So coming back to the standards within a relationship, we're going to lean into that in our conversation today, because we're going to talk about the 5 most important aspects of boundaries that I want to share with you today. So you're not operating from that naive place. You're operating from an intentional place. Let me repeat that. You're operating, what I mean by intentional, look, I know you all love the idea that you can just sit back in your feminine energy and let the guy claim you. Yeah, really, how well does that work these days? Just leaning back. By the way, most guys in midlife, and that's my specialty, midlife, which is after baby making years and before retirement, most guys, look, I know you all want that confident alpha male type that's just he knows what he wants and he's going to go after you. The reality is most guys and women have had, have been possibly burned by a divorce. They're gun shy. They're emotionally wounded. They're bitter. They're jaded. They've let themselves go. I'm sorry to be that crass, but it's the reality, is that we're dealing with a population of men and women alike that are just not very intentional in the process of choosing a mate. And so this passive approach that you can just sit back in your feminine energy and just hope that magic fairy dust will get a guy to claim you, it's going to require effort on your part, and certainly it's going to require effort on a guy's part. It is, men and women can't be passive in this process. This is why understanding your standards helps prepare you for boundaries. I'm going to put on my trusty glasses. I'm going to show you my notes here really quickly for a second. But I want to share with you something. First, you have to identify the type of relationship you want and when is intimacy is going to occur. Now, what I mean to say is, earlier I talked about casual relationships. Look, I'm more devoted to partnership type relationships, and I recognize that these days, casual relationships might be the most many of you can obtain, or many of you are capable of wanting. Let me repeat that. And I don't mean to be dismissive here. I'm here to say is some people, they're not capable of a fully committed relationship where you're actually supporting one another, whether it's financially or emotionally or physically. Many of you are not capable of that. Many men aren't capable of that. And many of you don't want that. So casual relationships are quite okay. Some of you are okay with friends with benefits. You're aware that the person you're interested in is all he cares about is sex, and you're okay with that. And there's no disrespect for that. But for those who want a fully committed relationship, I think it's important to know, what does a relationship look like for you? When does intimacy occur? In addition, it's having an understanding about communication. Folks, every woman I talk to says the importance of communication, communication, communication. But do you realize many men and women alike, they simply vomit communication? They're talking at you. I'm talking to my microphone. They're talking at you and not with you. Vast majority of humans don't know good communication skills. If you haven't read the book, definitely check this book out, Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. By the way, there's a link below to get all the books I recommend. By the way, before I recommend any book, I got to recommend my own book. What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. By the way, the link's below, selflovethebook.com. Why I'm recommending this book and the book Nonviolent Communication, as well as so many others today, and there's again the link below, is that I got to tell you something. Just because a woman has a propensity to express her feelings doesn't mean it's landing on a guy for her to be seen, heard, and understood. And yes, we typically characterize men as emotionally unavailable, I can tell you most men are good guys. They're just bad at the process. And when two people, one person's not necessarily good at expressing their feelings, the other person just vomits their feelings, there's going to be a lot of miscommunication. So communication is an integral part of a healthy, happy relationship. And last but not least is identifying what commitment looks like for you. What does commitment look like for you? So let's dive into those 5 boundaries you must set with men, okay? Because we've set the stage. And first is the boundary around time. And what that means is you have to set your standard as to how much time you're going to be spending together in a relationship. Now, or let me reframe that. Identify how much time you want to spend in a relationship, okay? How much time you want. Most of you know my standard. Prior to meeting my beloved sweetheart right there, Marie, and mind you, we were long distance relationship, but for those who live locally, my standard was we spend 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills, both in our personal and our professional life, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy that led to either moving in together or getting married. Okay, that was the standard I had. And that's what I operated for people who live locally. Now, she was long distance, so my standard was a little bit different. In this particular case, I said I was only willing to explore this relationship under the understanding, and she had already agreed that she wanted to live in California anyway, in Los Angeles in particular. So we created a plan where within 5 months, we actually moved into with one another. And during that time, within of the 5 months prior to moving in together, I believe we cumulatively, time-wise, spent 2.5 months. We're 75 days together out of 150 days. So that was actually more than my original standard. Okay, but coming back to time, this is about you, not me. But why I'm sharing this with you is know the standard you want around time. And my notes say here, how much time spent together physically. And given that intimacy is the #1 cause of breakups, by the way, most marriages cite intimacy as the primary reason why they got divorced. And intimacy isn't, look at folks, it's not spending all day on the telephone. That's not intimacy. Intimacy happens face to face. In fact, I continually say it takes about 100 hours of face-to-face time just to build the first layer of trust. So setting your standard around time, how much time do you want to invest in a relationship? Now look, I know the first couple weeks of dating someone, we're not applying that. But once you've decided that you're going to explore a relationship together, know your standard around time. And if this person doesn't meet that standard of time, in other words, how much time you're going to spend together, then you have to evaluate, is this the right relationship for you? Number 2. Communication, your standard around communication. Now there's face-to-face communication and then there's non-face-to-face communication. What is your standard around that? In other words, how much time you're going to communicate in these 2 mediums, okay? And what does that communication look like? A moment ago, I talked about the book Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. I highly recommend checking out this book. I Hear You, The Surprisingly Simple Skills Behind Extraordinary Relationships by Michael Sorensen. I highly recommend checking this out. This is a great book to get a better understanding of relationship. And more importantly, communication is also about knowing how to resolve conflicts in relationship. This is a critical piece. And resolving conflicts all comes with your words, with your mouth. You have to communicate to resolve your differences. In fact, I want to share another book with you. Where is it? This is from Pastor Calvin. It's called Marriage Ain't for Pugs. He's on the show Married at First Sight. He's one of the counselors there. I think he's just fabulous because his his perception is all centered around a healthy relationship, is all based on your ability to heal quickly when there's differences. This morning, my sweetheart and I, every morning we get together for breakfast, or not breakfast, for coffee. We spend about an hour and a half chatting. I usually bounce ideas off of her. And something I said triggered her. And she immediately opened up about it. That's setting her boundaries. She opened up about it. And we discussed it, and we ended up having this amazing dialogue afterwards. And one of the things she says to me is, she said to me early on, I am not going to do what I did in my past relationships, and that is stuff my feelings under the rug. Folks, knowing your ability to speak your truth, as I talk about in my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway, to speak your truth, do it with kindness. In other words, speak from a sincere place. This is what's so needed, and that's the standard you want to establish early on in the relationship. Number 3, this is one I haven't shared before, but it's social media presence. Social media presence, your boundary around this. What I mean to say is, let's face it, most everybody has an Instagram or Facebook or some social media presence. What is your standard going to be in relationship about how you utilize these mediums with respects to your relationship or not? In fact, I was in a relationship with a woman who she created something called the social media prenup. And this really relates to my relationship, because my sweetheart prefers that I'm not public on social media or like Instagram and Facebook about identifying who she is. And the reason being is, I got to be candid with you. There's been some people out there, my YouTube comments, that have written some very nasty things about her. I've had some people stalk her. And it's very disappointing to witness the trolls out there and that jealous personality type that wants to figure out who this person is and delve into her life and do background checks and whatnot. I mean, it's been disgusting, some of the things I've read. And why I'm sharing this with you is social media plays a huge role these days in relationships. So I think it's really important to identify what is going to be your standard with social media with respects to your relationship. Now, in my case, because I'm a public figure and because I want to protect her, I don't give her last name out, and nor do we establish that our names on our Facebook profiles, because I want to be protective of her. And I hope you appreciate that I want to be protective of her. It's not that I'm hiding anything. But at the same time, you have to talk to your partner about how you're going to utilize social media. In fact, I basically, I'm allowed to post pictures of my sweetheart. And when I say allowed to, she's okay with that because she wants to protect her privacy. But I think you should have a boundary with respects to your social media presence, with respects to your relationship. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. Please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. That's the third boundary. The fourth boundary centers around what I call financial agreement. The use of money is an integral part of a relationship. And given that the second most common reason for divorce centers around money, I think it's imperative to have conversations about money sooner rather than later. The minute two people enter into a relationship, they call each other boyfriend and girlfriend, I think it's imperative. But Jonathan, men are supposed to pay for everything because that is this traditional standard. Folks, we don't live in that world where men represent 99% of the workforce, okay? Right now, women actually outnumber men in the workforce. And while there might be a wage gap at the higher end wage scales, if a man makes $75,000 a year and a woman makes $74,000 a year, they both make about the same amount of money. And these days, at least here in Los Angeles, it takes $1 million to survive, and that's just being tongue in cheek. The reality is, when it comes to money, the vast majority of Americans here live paycheck to paycheck. The vast majority of Americans barely have 3 months savings in their bank account. It's going, and by the way, we have an aging population where it's going to be much harder to retire. So having conversations around money sooner rather than later is an important boundary to establish, because I've spoken to men who have broken up with women because they thought the women that they were with were not contributors financially to a relationship. That's right. I've spoken to many men. Their number one complaint was these are women that didn't contribute financially to the relationship. They had an expectation that the man did all the work. And these are men that have gone through divorce and they've got alimony and child support to contend with. So being naive when it comes to around money is a very, let me just say, being naive about anything is setting oneself up for disappointment. And I'm drawing attention to it. So having a financial agreement, once you've explored, you're in exploring a relationship together. And last but not least, the fifth boundary. Where's this relationship going? What's the purpose of exploring a union together? What's the purpose of spending time together? Is it casual? Is it situationship? Is it friends with benefits? Or is it to explore a juicy, delicious, healthy, happy partnership with someone? That's my terminology. You leave that, that like you leave up to yourselves. But to me, it's all about establishing partnership, because who wants to be, listen, my audience is midlife, after baby making years, before retirement. Okay. Bottom line is this: do you want to be 50 and still dating? Do you want to be 55 and still dating? Do you want to be 60 and still dating? Do you want to be 70 and still dating? Do you want to be 80? Or do you want to have a life partner? And having these more difficult conversations around standards and the boundaries associated with them is imperative. Ladies, look, I'm your big brother. If I could be there on a first date, I'd have the shotgun out pointed at the guy's head and say, "What's your intention with my little sister?" But I can't be there for you every single day. Although I have helped clients in that capacity a number of times. But my point is you have to be your own protector. You have to be your own matchmaker. You can't leave it up to the guy. Guys are relatively clueless. Men are better at following directions. But Jonathan, I want a confident alpha guy that does all that. Good luck finding that guy. Most guys are insecure. Do you realize the number one emotional health issue for most human beings is I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, and I'm not likable? This is true of men and women alike. And dating triggers this number one wound. Think about it. The average person, by the time they hit 50 years old, has had 3 significant relationships. And if you've had 3 relationships that didn't work out, that wears on our emotional well-being. So don't count on guys being this sophisticated, like all these feminine energy coaches. They're selling you on this fantasy of Prince Charming who doesn't exist. Yes, there are the broken clock. In other words, yes, there are good guys out there that are actually intentional. But most men, they're not bad guys. They just don't know what they're doing. And that's why they're better off you give them direction. You're the ones reading these books more so than men. And I will tell you this, if everyone knows my rhetoric, before the penis goes inside the vagina, you read the book 8 Dates by Drs. John and Julie Gottman, and at least do chapter 1 together. At least read it for yourself. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. All right, coming back to, first off, boundaries to set with men. They're all set on your standard around time, communication, social media presence, financial agreement, and lastly, where's this relationship going? Those are the standards, and your boundaries are what is it you want within those areas, and you speak up, because a boundary is simply what's okay and what's not okay for you. All right, I think this will be a great place to take questions. For those who know my live stream format, we're taking questions right now. If you're familiar with it, there's a little chat box below. Write the word question, then post the question there after. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. There's a $sign in the chat box. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's him right there. He's my son who passed away 4.5 years ago. In his honor, I've started a scholarship fund to donate to causes like the Hoffman Process and Insight Institute, just to name a few. Okay. Sometimes I get choked up when I think about Connor. All right. So if you have a question, write the word question and then post the question therein. Also hit that like button. Please share this video as well. All right. Let's see what kind of comments we have so far. Andrea says, great info. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hillary says, I'm reading it. I'm glad. Which book are you reading? Stephanie or Sue Starshine says, I can barely afford anything on my own without a partner. My ex moved out a few years ago and he lives an hour away. He also has another woman that he's involved in with his previous ex. I'm sorry to hear that. Someone said, Ruth says, could it be out of jealousy that they're mean to Marie? Yes, I do believe that there are some significantly jealous people that are somewhat, it's just disappointing to get hateful comments or jealousy type comments. So yes, that is the case. And Pam says, I'm disappointed in hearing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, let's see if we can, oh, we've got a super sticker from Margaret of $7.99. Thank you so much. Adrian says, awesome. Thank you. You taught me so much. Here's a question. What are senior men really looking for? Great question. What are senior men really looking for? You know, I want you to think about this for a moment. You're in your late 50s, maybe 60s. You got married. You're married for 20, 25 years, and it didn't work out. You were married before there were smartphones, okay? You used to use a pager, okay? And you're just thrust out into the dating realm. In fact, I'm watching a show on Hulu called Fleischman is in Trouble. And now, mind you, it's a 40-year-old man going through a divorce. But I think men that are in their late 50s and early 60s going through divorce, they're shell-shocked. It could be very, for man or woman alike, you can be literally shell-shocked. And it's difficult because the dream you had in your 20s and 30s before you got married collides with this reality. And I think most people don't know what they want because they don't know how to actually what's known as co-create a relationship. Co-create really means being two people intentional in the process. And I think a lot of men and women, men in particular, are rather clueless. Doesn't make them bad guys. It just makes them human beings because nobody teaches this shit to us growing up. You know, all we had for role models is our parents, which in many cases, they were dysfunctional. We had TV shows that glorified things in the fantasy realm, but we had nobody teaching us the mechanics, the basics of a relationship. Folks, there's a book, well, two books I want to recommend right now. This book, 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. Now, why I'm recommending this book is that it gives you the mechanics, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're married or just in a relationship with someone. This is the mechanics. And another book is Marie turned this on to me, Making Your Second Marriage a First-Class Success. These are great books to teach you. When I talk about mechanics, I want you to think of like you just bought a model airplane. It's more of a guy's thing probably, but you bought a model no, you're making a dress, okay? My mom used to make dresses and she'd get these patterns. Well, the patterns told you where to cut and where to do things and where to sew. If we don't know the pattern on how to make a successful relationship, it's no wonder men are clueless. And men don't buy these books at the same rate as women do. So this is why there's nothing, it's not that they're bad guys, they just don't know how to make it happen. So guess what's happening now? I have clients and many of you followers reaching out to me. Oh my God, Jonathan, we're reading the book 8 Dates together. Oh my God, Jonathan, we're reading this book together. And it's like gold because now there's a blueprint. Guys are great once there's instructions. So just help them along the way with instructions. Does that make sense? All right, I hope that helped. Thanks so much, Debbie. All right, Forgiven says, hi, John. I just blocked Hi, John. I just blocked on a second date because I didn't want to do more than kissing. He was respectful, but then when I got home, he didn't talk to me, then blocked me for a week. I'm sorry that happened. Ruth writes, question. Why are some men don't like it when you have normal boundaries, like they want to use your, okay, they want, by the way, I forget what the acronym is for SMH. So can someone remind me? Why are some men don't like it when you have normal boundaries? You know, because there are a lot of childish men out there that, that are incapable or they're dysfunctional at being in a relationship. So I wouldn't focus on those men who don't like your boundaries. What I would focus on is attracting a man who wants healthy boundaries. God, universe, spirit, I'm in a juicy, delicious relationship with a man who appreciates my standards on chemistry, communication, compatibility, character, and commitment. And he appreciates these standards. And whenever there's a difference in opinion, we're able to speak to one another, which is what boundaries are all about. God, universe, spirit, I'm experiencing this in my life. See, rather than focusing on the guys who don't know how to do something, my suggestion is call in and attract the guys who do know what the fuck they're doing. And even if they're bad at it, you can train them. Okay? Ruth, thank you so much for your question. Hey, I want to thank Sarah for the $2.99 super sticker. Big hugs and appreciation to you. Michelle writes, question. I set my boundaries. He disappeared and came back after 9 months. Do I give him another chance? We've been on and off for 2 years. Here's the thing. If you are going to give him another chance, then establish what your standard is going forward. And actions matter most. So what is your standards in this relationship? What's your standard around time, communication, your social media presence, your financial agreement? But most importantly, where's this relationship going? Folks, if you don't have a clear understanding of what commitment looks like for you, don't expect a guy to know it. We can't read your mind. You establish the standard. I told you my standard. I use this frequently. My standard was real simple. Spending 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills both in our personal and our professional life, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy that leads to either moving in together or getting married. That's the standard. You can deviate, you can vary it a little bit, but with respect to how often you see each other, but that's the standard I'm recommending for all of you. I'm serving it up to you. But Jonathan, I'm in a long distance relationship and we talk every single day, 42 times a day, but we still haven't met yet and it's been 3 years. Oh my God, the insanity, some of you folks. I'm sorry, I've got to call you out. Not all of you, but there's people out there that think they're in relationship with someone because all they do is talk on the phone and text each other all day long. Listen, that's called a cyber relationship. So let me retract what I said. You're welcome to have cyber relationships, but let me tell you something. The best part about having a physical relationship is you get to do shit together and you get to have sex together. So choose relationships where you can physically have physical intimacy with one another instead of these cyber relationships. And masturbating over the phone doesn't fucking count. Well, yes, it does. I guess it counts, but it's fucking boring. All right, that's my rant. I'm done. Sorry for ranting. All right, thank you. Vicky says, right on. Sherry says, Jonathan, your sweetheart should start a dating matchmaking service, that the one that used to be on TV. We'll see about that. You meant you and my sweetheart and me. Thank you so much. All right, Pam writes, question. My dating profile. I feel is good, but I don't get very much interest. I have a lot to offer, but sit alone. I'm 65. Do you think it's age related? I will tell you that, Pam, 99% of the profiles I review, women's profiles as well as men, are garbage. And my guess is Don't take this personally. Yours is probably mediocre, because a really quality profile will garner activity. If nothing, the clients I work with, when they go through a profile makeover, they're at least getting at least an email a day, if not more. It's going to require killer, awesome photographs. It's going to require, and I'm talking about really killer, quality, awesome photographs. You've got to be seen. And my guess is you think you have good photographs, but some of you ladies, I apologize, I'm not criticizing you, Pam, but some of you women are fucking delusional, and guys are delusional too. The fish in the photo. Oh my God, every woman wants a man holding a fish. This is delusion in my mind that people think that's quality. But with that said, a quality photograph, quality profile should garner at least 1 or 2 emails a day or swipes a day at a minimum, no matter what your age. I have a 78-year-old client. Oh my God, she's got 5 boyfriends going on right now. I mean, she's got more opportunities she knows what to do with, and she's 78. All right, that's my 2 cents on that, Pam. Thank you so much. Adolin says, we have had no teachings. I'm so glad you have explained so much to me. I'm so into boundaries, and it's a big difference. Way to go. Thank you. Margaret says, I think you are right. No one knows the mechanics. How can you do something if you don't know how? Exactly. But Jonathan, I like to live in this fantasy bubble because magic fairy dust always works. Okay, that's doing my little kid voice. Margaret says, that's so important. Guides need instructions. Exactly. Jade says, please give us some points about healthy communication, not vomiting or underexpressing. I just recommended 2 books. These 2 books. Because these books will explain. Here, let's open up one of these books, okay? I hear you. Let's just scroll, bump, bump, bump. Okay, let's use an example since you want one. The comment is, this cold is annoying. I can't sleep. I have a hard time breathing and my throat is killing me. So the partner is expressing frustration at having a cold. An invalidating response would sound like this. That's unfortunate, but you'll get over it. It could be worse. My neighbor caught the flu last year and was bedridden for almost a month. So that's an invalidating response. A validating response would say, ugh, that sounds miserable. It's so frustrating not being able to sleep when you're sick, and I can't stand sore throats. That's a validating response. So one is invalidating their feelings, and the other is validating their feelings. By the way, men are terrible at validating feelings. I would agree. By the way, ladies, you have a reason to gripe. Men would say, that's unfortunate, but you'll get over it. It could be worse. My neighbor caught the flu last year and was bedridden for almost a year. Yeah, guys can be bad at validating feelings. I get that. All right. I hope that helped, Jade. But the book, I Hear You by Michael Sorensen. One more time, I Hear You by Michael Sorensen. It's in the description below under recommended books. By the way, Hillary says SMAH stands for shaking my head. Okay, got it. My bad. I'm not good at all the acronyms. Starshine wants to respond to Pam. It depends on the dating site your profile is on. Some sites are for younger generation between 18 and 40. Other sites are for singles over 50. That is a good point. But Match.com is the predominant, most used dating site in the United States anyway. Wanda writes, question. I think sometimes women and men should just find themselves for a while. What do you think? Oh, great point. Folks, the 4 stages of relationships starts with being in a healthy place yourself, both physically, your body, and emotionally, being in a healthy place. The second aspect of relationship hierarchy is knowing who is compatible with you and how to vet for compatibility. The third is being attractive being attractive and having good flirting skills. If you don't have good flirting skills, you're behind the 8 ball. I got to tell you something. Go Go on YouTube and watch Flirting Skills. And last but not least, coming back to why I recommend all these books, how to maintain and make a relationship thrive. If you don't have those 4 components, you're behind the 8 ball. It's going to be a fucking bitch. I'm sorry to say. This is why my clients, oh my God, I got a message this morning from a client who's just went off to Paris with her boyfriend. I mean, she's like, I can't believe what a difference it is working with you, Jonathan, because now I see the difference in how I show up and what I've attracted in my life. And folks, I can't guarantee that that relationship or the many others are going to work out. I just had a client getting married this year. I've had clients in Alaska of all places, Idaho of all places. And I'm just saying they just seem like in the boondocks compared to those of us who live in maybe a city area. But if you want to make a difference in your life, you've got to become intentional. That's why check out a link to free discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. All right, let's keep going. By the way, am I making a difference in your life? Please let me know. Please post a comment. Debbie writes, question, I'm giving up trying to find a decent man. No, John, they are not out there. Well, that's not a question, Debbie. That's a statement. And I can tell you, I know so many women who have met great guys, but if your belief system that there are no decent men, then your belief system is true for you. That's your belief system. Marie, she didn't believe that. She didn't believe that. She believed, matter of fact, she attracted great guys. We've talked about many of her, we talked about her 2 significant relationships and some of the men she dated. She dated quality guys. They weren't right fit for her, but she dated quality guys. And it has nothing to do with their looks. It's because she had standards, and more importantly, she had boundaries. But the one thing she had in her mindset was it's raining great men. It's raining great men. It's raining great men. So what did she attract? Great men. So it's the difference between Eeyore and Tigger. Eeyore, there's no good men out there. All men are assholes. Men are users. They're narcissists. Versus bouncity, bouncity, bounce, bounce, bounce. It's raining great men. It's raining great men. It's raining great men. Do you want to be Tigger? Do you want to be Tigger or do you want to be Eeyore? And I'm sorry I called you out on that, Debbie, but I'm telling you, that statement is Eeyore. It might be, now, I'm not saying it isn't true for you, but it's not an absolute. It's just a belief. Thank you so much for posting. Maeve says, I love your rants. Thank you so much. And I agree. Let's keep swimming. Question from Wanda. Do you think it's fine to find you again after becoming single after years of marriage after it ends because they passed away? Yes, it is always good to find your true self. It's always good to do that. All right. Starshine says, amen, Jonathan. I agree with you. Humans need physical, social intimacy. Over the phone doesn't provide that. Exactly. Hey, Corny Cobb is in the house. Question. As a parent, what rules would you have in place for your kids when they begin dating? Oh, that's a good one. You know, with my son, there's Colin. He's going to be 27 this year. My only rule for him was be of integrity. Follow the 4 agreements. Folks, if you're not familiar with the book, The 4 Agreements, by Don Miguel Ruiz. I just want to share this with you. The 4 agreements are be impeccable with your word, number 1. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions and always do your best. Let me repeat that. Be impeccable with your word. That's what I taught my son. Don't take anything personally. Believe me, I've drilled that into his head. Don't make assumptions. That's a big mistake. And always do your best. If I had a son or daughter, I have a son, but if you have a son or daughter, this is the best dating book out there. It has nothing to do with dating. It has everything to do with how to show up as a good human being. But if you want to give a book, I would recommend the book, If the Buddha Dated. If the Buddha Dated. This book throws out the stupid gender rhetoric garbage out there, the red pill garbage, the feminist garbage, all that crap out there that's messing up relationships today. And it teaches you how to enter into the process from a heart-centered space. Definitely. And then don't forget my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. All the books I recommend are on the link below. Thank you so much, Corny Cobb, for that question. Given that it's Valentine's Day, how do guys feel about Valentine's Day? If a woman wants to use it to show affection, is it off-putting, cheesy, even though I'm not really into it? Can I use a tool to get closer? By the way, I think my beloved and I will do a video tomorrow for Valentine's Day. So personally, matter of fact, she looked at me today. She goes, you know, it's Valentine's Day tomorrow. And I go, yeah. She goes, we're not getting each other gifts, right? Yes, we're not. We don't, because you know what she said? She said, every day with you is Valentine's Day. I swear to God, those were her exact words. She said, every day with you is Valentine's Day. We treat every day with a sense of love and romance and care and kindness, attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. When you have that, every day is Valentine's Day. Most guys can't stand it because it's an expectation to do something, to perform in a certain way. They overcharge you at restaurants. Make every day Valentine's Day, in my opinion. Anyways, that's my 2 cents on that. Thank you so much. Jan says, question, in your opinion, what's the best online dating apps for women over 50? I like Match.com just as a dating site, and Bumble and Hinge were 2 good. I think those were really good dating apps. Bumble and Hinge. Let's keep going. Maya says, what's an example of giving direction without sounding critical or demanding? So here's a great example of giving direction. I'm going to use the sex conversation. I'll be Marie, you'll be Jonathan. This is Marie talking. Jonathan, I just want you to know something. When I'm interested in becoming intimate with a man, I do so with men who want to be in relationship with me. So my standard for intimacy, physical intimacy, is that I'm in a relationship with someone. That's how I operate. How do you operate? See, you're coming, okay, stop now, Jonathan and Marie. You're coming at it from a curiosity. You're establishing your standard, and then you're asking them their standard. That is the way to share a standard around sex without making it controlling or demanding. I'm not telling him when he can have sex. I'm just telling you when I want to have sex, this is my standard. And I'm asking you, what's your standard? You might say, yeah, I like to fuck on the first date. And go, good. That's not my standard. Bye-bye. Anyway, I hope that helps, Maya. Thank you so much for that question. Question. In your opinion, do you think a 15-year age difference is too much? Absolutely not. I don't think it can be. There could be some issues, but I don't think it doesn't have to be. Can be, but it doesn't have to be. All right, let's see. Wow. Let's go to the end. Maya says, good, thank you. You're very welcome. Jan says, thank you for what you do. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's see. Jonathan, some good advice. Buy your girl a Valentine's Day gift. We just went on a 2-week cruise, and I upgraded us to the fancy suite. So that was Valentine's Day, Christmas combined. And by the way, gifts is our least, of the 5 love languages. If you're not familiar with the 5 love languages, where is it? Words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and gifts. Gifts is our both her and I, it's our least, it's our least desired, love language. So, I mean, we're practically give each other gifts every day by being of service to one another, by communicating with one another. And as far as Valentine's Day, I know for a fact, and I know you ladies are saying, go out and buy some flowers. I could do that. And maybe I will. But you know what? We talk every single day. We have Valentine's Day every day. Anyway, thank you so much for that. Wait, Ocean, what does this say? Thank you for your response. I don't think it matters if at all compatibility is there. Certainly compatibility is a necessity for a healthy, happy relationship. You know, folks, I think this would be a great place to wrap up today. Just as a reminder, those 5 boundaries you must have are centered around your standards. Your standard around time, your standard around communication, your standard around social media presence, your standard around financial agreement, and lastly, your standard, where's this relationship going? In other words, having a clear-cut idea of the type of commitment you want. That's my invitation for all of you. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. Please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to me on my channel if you're brand new. And I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm asking you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow. There's a teddy bear. Give it or them a hug of love because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Andrea and Sherry and Starshine and Margaret and Ocean Hugh and Pam and Maya and Jade and Desert, Jennifer, Papa Leaf, Corny Cobb, Pam, Carla, Debbie, everyone, thank you so much. Have a fab evening. You be well. Bye now.